In the barren countryside, midway between Los Angeles and Palm Springs, lies coiled like a rattlesnake, one of the most famous road racing circuits in all the world, Riverside International Raceway. It's been called a lot of things by a lot of drivers, but no one has ever called it easy. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. And what better place than car-crazy Southern California for the Sports Car Club of America to begin the 1986 Bendix Trans Am Series. Now, the big news is defending series champion Wally Dallenbach Jr. has defected from the Ford Motor Company and has qualified the brand-new Protofab Camaro on the pole for 100 grueling miles. Now, these are the most sophisticated road racing machines in stock form you will find anywhere. And so far, Wally, it looks like you made the right decision.
Yeah, I'm real happy with the move we made. The car's working perfectly. We're going to see if we can run a pace that's maybe hard for them, but not hard for us.
So you're not going to worry about saving anything. Just go as hard as you can for 100 miles?
Well, we're going to run a pace, but I think we can run a pace too fast for the other guy's tires, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, good luck to you. Have a good ride.
Thank you.
And interestingly enough, alongside Wally is a car virtually identical to the one he won the championship in last year. Right, Brock Yates?
Well, thank you, Steve, and a battle it is. Once again, the battle we've seen on racetracks from coast to coast, Ford versus Chevrolet, and on the outside of the front row, in the Ford that is being driven by veteran Indianapolis driver and a fine young driver in the Trans Am race, Chris Kneifel. How about it, Chris? You got a super race. You got a hot racetrack today.
It's a very hot racetrack, but I'm looking forward to the battle against Wally and the Chevrolet and the Nissans and Buick. It's going to be a great race for everyone in TV land and at home. And I don't have my cool suit today, so I'm going to be losing a few pounds, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Did you choose not to run a cool seat for any particular reason, Chris?
No, we forgot them at home. It was one of those last-minute things that just never quite got done, and we'll probably regret it a little bit. But
no AC in here. I don't see any AC switch.
No, there's no AC in these cars, but we're going to have a good run, and I'm just real happy that you guys are here taking care of us with the TV.
Well, we'll be watching, and we'll be rooting for you. Good luck, and congratulations on a front row start.
Thanks, Brock.
Okay, Chris Kneifel. And now let's go to the third spot. Starter with Steve, and a man you're all familiar with.
Certainly the most serious of the foreign challengers is Nissan, and this is the beautiful red, white, and blue 300CX Turbo driven by Paul Newman. And Paul, on paper anyway, the Turbo might give you a bit of advantage down the long batch stretch.
Yeah, we have something of an advantage. I don't know, the heat may take that advantage away from us.
Is there a turbo lag experience with this combination in the turns that maybe offsets that?
Yeah, we give away a lot on 6 and 7 and 7A.
You got a great starting position. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Brock's with the driver alongside Paul.
Well, Steve, starting at the fourth spot, the second Protofab Camaro driven by Jim Miller. A super job up here with the fast guy. Jim, first of all, congratulations. Excellent starting spot.
Thank you very much.
How do you feel? You're going to have a hard race. It's going to be hot.
It's awful hot in here. I mean, I'm boiling already, and we can only hope that we get a caution during the race that allows us to cool the car down a little bit.
You got the cool suit on. You got to hope that works.
If it fails, we're in big trouble.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, a very, very hot race day here at Riverside. And now, let's go to Steve with a man who's starting way at the back.
And another interesting story is the number 0 car driven by Scott Pruitt. He has got to be one tired young man. He competed back east yesterday, flew in overnight, has had no practice, no qualifying, and you're going to have to play catch-up for that change, young man.
That's true. I'm just happy that the people from Mac Tool and Lincoln Mercury gave me the opportunity to come out here and do it. They've all been real supportive, and the Roush guys did a super job getting the whole thing together, and I'm going to go out and give it a heck.
And you're no stranger to Riverside by any means.
No, luckily we just spent 6 hours out here in the IMSA race. We ran the long course, but, you know, here we'll be running the short course, and I think it'll be okay.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
And now let's take a look at this famous Riverside Raceway that will challenge these drivers today.
Well, Steve, they've been racing here for nearly 30 years, and many of the greatest drivers in the world, Phil Hill, Dan Gurney, Sterling Moss, have all competed here, the great stock car drivers as well. And as you said, all of them have found it terrifically challenging. Today, we're going to get a look at this rugged old racetrack through the windshield of this automobile. The pole-sitting number 4 Camaro, the Protofab team, driven by one of the young stars in this sport, Wally Dallenbach Jr., the son of famed Indianapolis driver Wally Dallenbach, on his way out of the pits, as you see through the windshield of the Protofab Camaro, a new Bob Riley-designed automobile that's running its first race here at Riverside.
The very narrow and dangerous turn 1 is just before the pit exit, then onto a short little chute just a squirt uphill to the right-hand turn number 2.
All right, here comes Dallenbach off turn number 9, down the front straightaway. The pit's on the right-hand side, into turn number 1. You see him crest a little hill. It's rather blind there. He's running it flat out, down this short chute and into turn 2. Once again, just lifting slightly, but back on the throttle and up into the S's in top gear.
And on the right of your screen, you can see the S's snaking their way uphill into turn number 6, 180-degree right-hander.
And here are the S's, 3 quick left-right bends that lead up to turn number 6. This is a section of the racetrack that is extremely fast and very tricky. There goes Dallenbach, downshifting up into the right-hander. They call turn 6. 180 degrees, as Steve said, hard right-hander, and now down onto the little short chute, slightly downhill toward turn 7.
It's easy to distinguish turn number 7. It's that almost perfect asphalt S on the right-hand side of the screen.
And here comes Dallenbach down that short chute, heading toward turn 7. He crests a small, slight hill. You can see it's blind. Now off camber into that left-hander, tucking the apex, and then immediately setting up for the right-hander in the second part of the corner they call 7A. Up ahead lies the long Riverside back straightaway.
And it's here that these machines will reach their top speed, the Trans Am cars, about 170 miles an hour.
Right ahead of him lies a little kink to the left called turn 8, and then the big one, turn 9, Steve.
That's right, turn 9, almost 360 degrees with the wall on the driver's side of the race car.
Dallenbach barely lifts for turn number 8, runs it flat out, then touches the brakes and downshifts to set up for the most critical corner on this racetrack, turn 9. It's nearly 15% of the total 2.54-mile length of this racetrack, and if you're not hooked up in here, you're not going to turn quick lap times. Dallenbach hard on the throttle, back down the front straightaway to complete a lap here at Riverside. Our thanks to Wally and to car owner Charlie Seelix and the whole Protofab team for a terrific tour of this fantastic all-racetrack, Steve.
Well, they say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, Brock. Well, the race car drivers everywhere, Riverside is beautiful. Now, here is the view that Wally Dallenbach will have of this Trans Am 100. Dallenbach carrying our in-car cameras. He already starts to warm up the tires behind the pace car. Now, this Chevrolet was just completed last Tuesday in Detroit. The truck out here to Riverside has very few miles on it, but that's typical of all these teams, Brock. Many of the front runners are brand new machines.
Right, Steve, a whole bunch of new cars in here. We've got a pair of new Buicks, we've got a pair of these new Protofab Camaros, and we've got a brand new Merkur turbocharged car being run by the famous Jack Roush racing team out of Detroit that, of course, won last year's Trans Am with Wally Dallenbach at the wheel. We've got a pair of older Nissans with Newman and his teammate Jim Fitzgerald. Those cars are 3 years old, but boy, I'll tell you what, they are about as quick as anything on the straightaways here at Riverside. So it's an interesting mix of cars and some real veterans in here. George Follmer, remember him, a great Indy Trans Am, a driver of all kinds of cars, is in here with a brand new Corvette. So we've got probably half a dozen automobiles that are contenders that have really never rolled a wheel in competition.
Interesting to look at the Jack Roush philosophy here, though, Brock. He brings the brand new turbo Merkur, as you mentioned, and that is Lincoln Mercury's thrust for 86. But he backs it up with a tried and proven Mercury Caprice that dominated the series last year. Roush has taken no chances.
Well, Steve, it's interesting. We've got 4 major factories involved in this event. We've got Nissan, we've got Ford, we've got Lincoln Mercury, and we've got Buick. And, of course, there is heavy support from Chevrolet with the Camaro team of the Protofabs being driven by Wally Dallenbach and Jim Miller. So a bunch of people have a lot at stake back in Detroit and in Japan, for that matter, in this event.
And apparently, Brock, those builders feel that success in the Trans Am can be translated into new car sales. And we'll be back with the opening race of 86, the Bendix Trans Am, right after this. In just a few seconds, we may get a green flag start for the Bendix Trans Am in Riverside, California. Here you see, through the windshield of the pole-sitting automobile, the Camaro of Wally Dallenbach Jr., the front straight at Riverside Raceway. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates. And Brock, we do indeed have a start. And Wally Dallenbach Jr., the number 4 car, races out in front.
And look at Jim Miller challenge Knifel for second spot. Yes, he takes it. These 2 Protofab cars, Steve, have enormous horsepower. A bunch of power. You can see him just jump off the line there. And there is Wally Dallenbach, clear racetrack ahead as he goes down through the S's. And I don't think anybody's going to move in on him for a while.
You heard what Dallenbach told me in the pre-race interview. He said, I'm going to run a pace all right, but one I don't think these fellas can match. And so far, in the first half of the lap, that looks to be true.
It sure does. Dallenbach running this Charlie Selig's prepared car. Wait, hey, look at this. He's offline a little bit, Steve, moving over.
There is a problem with that car. Wally Dallenbach Jr. is slowing. We're riding along with him here, and you can see that he's down only about 30 or 40 miles an hour. Dallenbach has a problem. Listen to it. The car is missing badly.
It sure is, as you watch one of the Nissans go by, and he is going to pull off the racetrack between turn 7 and 7A. So his teammate Jim Miller takes over in the other Protofab Camaro. Right behind him, that's Chris Neifel, and behind him, Paul Newman. As we watch the 28 Camaro, Jim Miller, the new leader. A man not quite as well known as some of the regulars on the Trans Am circuit, but using all the power and the excellent handling of that Bob Riley Camaro to stay out front.
Well, that Camaro, Brock, was left back in Detroit. They figured they'd never get it finished. The crew came out here with a Dallenbach car, and lo and behold, a moving truck showed up Saturday morning with the car for Jim Miller. And there was Wally Dallenbach. He is finally coming to a stop there, Brock. There is no power whatsoever in that car. The engine is not turning over.
So he coasts to the inside of the back straightaway, obviously finished for the day. It looks as if he's trying to limp his way maybe into the pits, but I don't think he's going to make it. There's your battle for the third spot. In front, in third, is Pete Halsmer in the new Merkur turbocharged car, and right behind him, the number 33 Nissan of Paul Newman.
And this is the first time that Roush Racing, Brock, has run any kind of a turboed vehicle. There was a lot of conjecture that maybe it'd take them a while to get the development down. Doesn't look like it. They're running a strong third.
Well, Jack's reputation, of course, has been built on the big V8s that powered the Capris and Mustangs over the years. But right now, that little turbocharged four-cylinder, the German-built Merkur, is doing an effective job of staying ahead of the number 33 Nissan. Paul Newman's with a big turbocharged V6 that is believed to have the biggest straightaway speed of all these cars.
And here, still cranking on the starter, trying to get that engine restarted, is Wally Dallenbach Jr. on the inside of the back straightaway. But out front is his teammate, the 28 Camaro. As I said before, a machine they didn't even think it would make it to Riverside. Jim Miller now has all the responsibilities for that team. But look at this. This is Scott Pruitt, who started in the 31st position and has already moved up to 12th.
Well, that, yet again, is the third Roush car that they brought in here. Pruitt, now in the 12th spot, came in here late last night after running third in an IMSA GTO race at Charlotte, North Carolina. And look at him move. He goes by number 5, Andy Porterfield, for 11th, and sets his sights on the number 66 Buick of John Schneider.
John Schneider, a teammate of Elliott Forbes-Robinson in the Ron Nash-built Buick V6 cars. They are also brand new automobiles. And look at Pruitt just dogging that V6. The V6 may be a little at a disadvantage on a big course like Riverside.
Well, there is no apparent disadvantage for the Capri of Scott Pruitt's. They ran it last year with great success. Jack Roush had some second thoughts about bringing Scott in here because of his other race commitments. But, boy, it seems to be paying off right now as he blows by John Schneider, cresting the hill down into turn number 7. And moving up into 10th spot is Scott Pruitt, and he is charging on the leaders. There is Wally Dallenbach Jr. taking the hood off his Protofab Camaro, trying to figure out what popped in that motor and put him up. And now let's go to his car owner with Steve Evans, Charlie Selig's.
Charlie, Wally has pulled off on the side of the track on the very first lap. Any idea what's wrong?
I don't have any idea this time. It could be in numerous things. Electrical, motor. I don't have any idea.
Well, all of these cars are so new at the first of the season here. They're really totally untried.
Well, we didn't have any test time, and we did well, and I'm sorry he's out.
That's why you run a two-car team. You've still got the lead with Jim Miller.
Yeah, Jim is doing a super job, and we're looking forward to Jim having a great season with us.
Thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
And once again, our thanks to Charlie and his crew for letting us use the Wally Dallenbach Jr. car for not only our in-car camera, but our ride around Riverside. As we go back to the leader, Jim Miller has stretched it out a little bit right now, Steve.
Just a bit, Brock, but still they're running like a train. Miller up front, followed by last year's Mercury Capri, driven by Chris Neifel, a tall kid, almost 6'5". In the number 3 car in third spot is Pete Halsmer. That's the turbocharged 4-cylinder McClure, and Paul Newman in the Nissan, which is a turbocharged V6. And parked right at the entrance to turn number 8 with the hood still off is the crippled Wally Dallenbach Jr. car.
So we've got a whole variety of power plants, V8s, turbocharged 4s, turbocharged V6s, and unsupercharged V6s in the Buicks. So we watched Jim Miller sweep through that critical turn 9. Seems to pull it out a little bit. Steve, these protofab Camaros that Charlie Seelix has put together for Dallenbach and Miller not only work well, but they got a bunch of horsepower. They seem to be able to pull away on the straights and run the corners nice and clean. So he is on his way to an excellent season if he can keep these cars together.
Well, the only horsepower out there that seems to match what Jim Miller has under the hood is that of Scott Pruitt, who is back in the pack, picking his way through this field. Coming from 31st, he's already up to 10th and moving. Now, he is running just about the same lap times, if not a little bit quicker than Miller.
Absolutely. Our watches show him maybe a half a second a lap quicker than Miller on as he moves through this field. So he may be a force to be reckoned with before this race is over. As we watch Neifel, then Halsmer, and then Newman chasing the leader, Jim Miller. That is turn number 7. A little off camera, as we said. You got to tuck inside there, or else you're going to slide right off the outside of the racetrack.
Well, there's got to be a big smile on the face of Jack Roush, the man responsible for the Ford Motor Company effort. He does not yet have the lead. That still belongs to Jim Miller. But this Mercury Capri of Scott Pruitt's is just flying through the field. The McCord, the other Capri, also running well. Brock's with him.
I'm with Jack Roush, who's got a couple of cars with Chris Neifel and Pete Halsmer sitting in second and third. And you got to be happy with the way the turbo's going, Jack.
We're just really happy. The turbo was surprised the way it took off. In fact, here comes Chris. He's moved right in on Jim Miller. The Neifel, or Halsmer, is holding his own against Paul Newman in the turbocharged Nissan, so we're real hopeful. The surprise in the back, though, is that Scott Pruitt, who didn't have any time on the track, is going faster than leaders right now. He's gaining about a half a second a lap.
So you got a clock on Scott, so he could be moving.
He's coming a half a second a lap. There he goes right there. We're real proud for all of them. Come back and see us later.
I told you he'd be smiling. That's the man, Jack Roush, who just totally dominated this series last year, winning 12 races. And there is Neifel just going through the screen. There's Pete Halsmer now. He's in the 3rd spot, being challenged by Paul Newman. So it's a German-designed Ford, the Mercure, followed by the Nissan car, of course, from Japan, the turbocharged V6. What a battle this has been. In fact, there's all 4 front runners as they crest the hill. Well, you couldn't ask for a better mix of makes up at the front. Look at this. Jim Miller in the Camaro leading it. Chris Neifel in the Capri in second. Halsmer in the Turbo McCord. Then a pair of Nissans. Turbocharged V6 engines. Paul Newman and teammate Jim Fitzgerald. A battle for the lead in Riverside, California. The opening race of the SCCA Bendix Trans Am Series. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates. And again, Brock, it's Chevrolet and Ford going at it. There's the leader, Jim Miller, and the number 28 Camaro, followed very closely and gaining ground, Chris Neifel of Illinois.
He sure is. Neifel is right up on his bumper, and as we watch Halsmer and Paul Newman in the Mercure and the Nissan right behind, they aren't giving up either. Miller moves out a little bit down that short chute down toward turn number 7, but right in turn 6 a few moments ago, Neifel got right up on his bumper. It's a 4-car race for the lead. They've been running nose to tail for almost from the start when Wally Dallenbach Jr. went, oh, there's trouble in turn number 9. That is the number 72 Camaro of Bruce Jenner. Now, he gets back underway. Now, Bruce Jenner, you recognize that name. Well, that's not exactly the case here. Earlier, Steve had a look at this Bruce Jenner.
As you might imagine, a lot of fans hang around this particular pit hoping to get a glimpse of Olympic gold medalist and human conglomerate Bruce Jenner. Well, they're going to have a long wait, because this is a different Bruce Jenner, a fellow who came to this country from New Zealand in 1976, saw San Diego, California, and never went home, campaigns the number 72 Pontiac Trans Am car. But like the other Bruce, this guy really does it up right, huh? We got our potted palm here with the beautiful bird. We got the fancy lawn furniture and pretty ladies. There's an air-conditioned lounge over in the trailer and carpet naturally on the floors. And let's check the menu for today. Is Mexican, as a matter of fact. Yesterday it was Chinese. Tonight they're talking about throwing some shrimp on the Barbie. Now there's one activity not allowed in this oasis in the desert. That's wrenching on the race car. Those guys do it out in the blistering sun. I mean, you wouldn't want oil spots on the carpet, would you?
So Bruce Jenner goes to the races in style, but right now he's fighting back in the middle of the pack after that spin. The leaders, they stay the same. Jim Miller out of Lake Forest, Illinois, leads it. Right behind him, another Illinois native, Chris Neifel. We've heard of him in IndyCar racing, but right now concentrating with the Jack Roush team for a full season of Trans Am competition, Steve.
And so far, Brock, the Chevy Camaro, the Mercury Capri seem to be very evenly matched. I don't see a horsepower edge down the straightaway for either one of them, and they seem to have just about the same handling. So the drivers could make the difference here.
Other than that little move that Neifel made on Miller a couple of laps ago, these four cars have run absolutely equally for about 5 or 6 laps now. There's Newman in the back of this little freight train, the fourth car in that leader group, but it's Miller that holds on as here comes turn number 7, that little crest over that blind hill, and then that hard left-hander. Look at this, Neifel tries to get inside. Both cars spin, and look at this, Hosmer goes by, Newman goes by, but Neifel and Miller are off the racetrack. Neifel tried to duck inside on that tight turn number 7. And look at this, Jim Miller is still parked, Steve.
Well, that means both the Camaros are now parked, Brock. And what a job Pete Hosmer did at getting on the binders there to inherit the lead. So now you got a battle between a pair of turbocharged cars. The German design Mercury. And look at Newman. Newman just blows right by Hosmer going into turn number 9.
Beautiful pass, but look at this. Hosmer tries again on the inside of number 9. Can't make it stick, scrubbed off a little speed as Newman takes over with big authority on an excellent pass going into that very difficult turn 9. So suddenly a total change of complexion here. 2 brand new leaders, these turbo cars. One, of course, driven by one of the most famous men in the world, Paul Newman, who deserves a great deal of credit. He's over 60 years old. He doesn't drive race cars very much other than when he comes to a Trans Am event. Not anywhere near as much practice time as some of the younger drivers, and yet his skill level at the very peak. You wonder, Steve Evans, if he had concentrated on being a race driver totally from the beginning, how good he'd really be.
Oh, he'd have been a great one, Brock. And here in the pits, getting some repairs, is the number 2 Mercury Capri of Chris Neifel, who tangled with Jim Miller in that battle for the lead. Miller also, you just saw us in the pits, but out first is Neifel. Now here is the Pronafab team, and they're going to get Miller back out on the racetrack, but both cars lost a lot of positions. So one of the 3 Jack Roush cars involved in a bit of a shunt. Let's go down to that pit.
Jack, a quick stop for Chris. What was the problem?
Well, he had contact with Miller out there, I guess. I don't know whose fault it was, but they both went off the track, and he was concerned that he had a tire problem. We looked it over, elected to leave him with the same tire. We've taken a chance. We'll have to see how it works out.
You got a problem with a tire? You think you might have cut one down a little bit?
He would just wanted us to look at it. We think it's all right.
Okay, well, good luck.
Well, anytime you pit in a short race like this, you can kiss your chance of winning it goodbye. All you can hope for is a strong finish. Let's take another look at the battle for the lead just a few moments ago. On the right-hand side of your screen, that is Chris Neifel, and it appeared, Brock, that he just flat ran into the side of Miller.
Well, he tried to duck down inside Miller. As you see, Miller take a big 360, and Neifel does the same thing off the racetrack. Here comes Hosmer, just squeezing by Jim Miller as he goes off the racetrack, and there goes Newman by. But I think that Neifel saw a little shot there at the crest of that hill, got on the binders very hard. He could see tires smoke, and then just bang Miller, and off he went.
And a big benefactor in all of that was Scott Pruitt. Remember, he started 31st. Well, he's now up to 4th in the 0 car, and he is closing on the Fitzgerald Nissan. Scott Pruitt, Roseville, California, a one-time go-kart champion. What a show he is putting on today.
He's a young man that is destined for stardom. Everybody says that Scott Pruitt is on his way to greatness in this sport. And right now you see a demonstration of that as he moves in on Jim Fitzgerald, the veteran driver, the teammate of Paul Newman in that number 38 Nissan. Runs a driving school at Road Atlanta as this race for 3rd place gets really serious. Pruitt on the outside as they go into turn number 7, cross that little hill. Fitzy's got the inside line, but Pruitt stays right on the outside all the way around that corner there. A little bounce off each other as they go through 7A. Scott Pruitt tried as hard as he could to get inside Fitzgerald into 7A, but couldn't make it work.
And at 5th spot, just behind Pruitt, is the yellow number 80 Camaro, Les Lindley. He's got to be loving this, Brock. He hopes they take each other out.
Well, right now, Fitzgerald holds on to that 3rd spot as they go down into turn number 9. Pruitt goes way high on the outside. but there's a slower car blocking him, and Fitzgerald gets through cleanly. So he falls back a little bit. Scott Pruitt lost maybe a couple of car lengths in that little dice as they come down the front straightaway. We'll try it again. Now, this is where Pruitt is so quick through the S's. Down through turn number 1. Pruitt moves in on Fitzgerald a little bit. On the outside, heading toward turn 2. He's got the line. Does he do it? No! Fitzy holds him off again.
Well, there may be 30 years difference in their ages, but there's not much difference in their lap time. Paul Newman continues to lead the Bendix Trans Am in the Nissan. Pete Halsmer in the turbocharged McCore. Another Nissan in the 3rd spot. Scott Pruitt, well, he's the big news right now.
Riverside, California, where we're hard at it in the SCCA Bendix Trans Am as this man, Jim Fitzgerald, tries to hold off a charging Scott Pruitt in the 0 Mercury Capri that started, at the back, 31st spot, but he's moved up into a challenge for the 3rd place here as Scott Pruitt comes wide off turn 9 and has another shot at Jim Fitzgerald. This time he makes it work, Steve.
And a good clean pass, too, Brock, going into turn number 1. Now headed up to turn number 2. His next objective will be his own teammate in the new McCore, Pete Halsmer. But Halsmer has got quite an advantage in that 2nd spot.
Well, a big advantage, too, because Halsmer has done all the development work on his car. Scott Pruitt climbed into this race car with no practice. Got a few hot laps just before the green. Had to start at the back. Came in here on an airplane. Had only a couple of hours sleep, and look at him run. This car not doing as well. This is one of the 2 Buicks that Ron Nash brought in here. John Schneider, the car owner, he started 13th, but right now he's parked. His quicker teammate, the star of the team, Elliott Forbes-Robinson, started in 6th spot, but only lasted a couple of laps. However, these cars will be reckoned with later in the season, as will the protofab Camaros of Jim Miller's and Wally Dallenbach Jr. Miller right now rolling to a stop coming off turn 7. He is out for the day, but believe me, these are fantastic race cars. Among the most sophisticated stock cars in the business. Earlier, Steve had a look at this car.
A Trans Am car carries 31 gallons of racing gasoline in a cell located directly above the rear axle. Now, as soon as the engine starts for the race, the car starts going on a diet. As it consumes that fuel, it could be as much as 200 pounds lighter at the finish of the race. Now, that means only one thing. As the weight is reduced at the rear end tends to get loose. Now, some of the top teams have installed cockpit adjustable front sway bars to try to counteract that. As the rear end gets lighter, the driver, by moving a lever on the dashboard, can stiffen this front sway bar, keeping the car as neutral as possible. Another advantage, of course, if the crew should miss a little bit on the chassis setup, maybe by making adjustments from the cockpit, the driver can come to the rescue. I think you'll see this on all the top cars very soon.
Bob Riley did that, one of the best designers in the United States at the present time, as we go back to racing and we watch Les Lindley in the 80 Camaro get by Jim Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald may be slowing ever so slightly. First it was Scott Pruitt that got by him, and now Lindley, who've been back there for a while. So Les Lindley does a good job moving up into the 4th spot. The only Camaro among the top 5, Steve.
Yeah, the Camaros, it's been a disaster for them in the early going, Brock. Wally Dallenbach Jr. not even lasting one full lap, and then Jim Miller getting kind of blindsided by Chris Neifel. So all of the Camaro pressure is now on Les Lindley here.
As he moves out a little bit, stretches that lead over Fitzgerald. It may be, as we said earlier, that Fitzy is having some problems because he was running very strong early in the going. Right now, here's his teammate, though, running really stout. This is the 33 car of Paul Newman, and he seems to be able to hold on with great authority the lead here at Riverside. Right behind him, Pete Halsmer. But Halsmer in that new Mercure just doesn't seem to have enough beans to haul in the flying Newman. Newman has good command of this race right now.
And I think he has no worries about Pete Halsmer, but he better be worried about this guy. Scott Pruitt, the 0 Mercury Capri, is just flying, Brock. Our watches tell us a good deal quicker on his lap times than Paul Newman. It's Pruitt that could indeed reel both of them in.
All right, as they head through the S's, the leader right behind him, Pete Halsmer. In front of him, Vic Manueli in a lap car. He lets Newman by, and let's see, does Halsmer get by as they head up into turn 6? No. That'll cost Halsmer a few seconds, as he's going to have to work his way past Manueli down this short straight, heading up to turn number 7.
And all of this busyness, Brock, is good news for Scott Pruitt. He is running clear of traffic right now and making up a lot of ground.
Into turn 7, the tight little downhill left-hander, and then the sweeper called turn 7A goes Paul Newman and Pete Halsmer. holding on, though, very, very easily. And this is where the big horsepower should come into play for the Nissan down the straightaway on the backside here at Riverside. Big, wide racetrack. Use it as a drag strip on occasion as turn 8 comes up for Paul Newman. Just a sweeper, hard on the throttle. Now, off the throttle, you see that little wastegate, the little spurt of fire out of the turbo as he heads into turn number 9, that big sweeper. Here comes Pruitt down the back straight through turn 8, slowly moving in on the leaders. The question is, though, he's got a long way to go to overtake both Newman and Halsmer as this race unwinds. There goes Newman through turn number 1. Halsmer hanging on. You know, it's amazing, Steve, this little Mercure, brand new automobile. Pete Halsmer, of course, with extensive IndyCar racing and into GTP racing, doing a good job, did all the development work on this race car, but still, people said, hey, it's a brand new automobile. Nobody's ever run this car quite like this. Can they hold on? And he's doing a super job with it.
As is Paul Newman with some tried and proven turbo technology in the Nissan 300. Pete Halsmer running second. Scott Pruitt, the young 26-year-old driver from Roseville, California.
Back at Riverside, California, and this is Jim Fitzgerald in the number 38 Nissan, and he is encountering troubles. He's slowed down and heading for the pits. That is yet more problems for the leaders here. First it was Dallenbach on the pole, then Neifel, then Jim Miller, and now it's Fitzgerald. Only Steve Evans, only the leader, Paul Newman, among the top 5 starters, is still rolling along without problems.
Well, this accounts for Scott Pruitt's easy pass on Jim Fitzgerald. He must have started having problems about that time, Brock, a couple of laps ago. The Bob Sharp Racing team crew looking over the car. It may be an overheating problem. Let's remember, it's 95 degrees today.
A beautiful day here at Riverside, actually, as you say, very, very warm, but low humidity, almost no wind, not a cloud in the sky. That may not have been the problem. It could be a loose hose or whatever, but Jim Fitzgerald losing valuable time as we watch his teammate, Paul Newman, the man in the lead, who stretched it out a little bit over Pete Halsmer, and right now has the racetrack all to himself, Steve.
And riding shotgun with Paul Newman, Brock, is a great big cooler full of ice. Lines running through that cooler and through his suit and his helmet to try to keep him cool in that race car. Some of the drivers elected to go without the cool suits. Some of them forgot, left them at home, figuring it wouldn't be this hot. But Newman should be pretty comfortable.
Right behind him as they head down into turn number 7 is Pete Halsmer in the Mercure, the little 4-cylinder turbocharged automobile. And look at this. This is Chris Neifel. Remember him. He started on the outside of the front row, had that little banger with Jim Miller in turn 7, fell way back, but now has moved back up to 6th spot. So Neifel, in addition to Scott Pruitt, his teammate, both moving back through the field.
Well, before the race, Brock, team owner, manager Jack Roush told me that he wouldn't trade Chris Neifel's car for anything on the grid. That's how much confidence Roush had in this tried and proven Mercury Capri. Meanwhile, back in the pit area, the Bob Sharp Racing team, yes, they are going to try to put Jim Fitzgerald back into the race. Now, earlier I said that if you pitted in a Trans Am race, you have no chance of winning it. Well, the way the leaders are having problems, I'm not so sure that is absolutely true. Down in the Nissan pit area is Brock Yates. Brock?
I'm at Bob Sharp, the other half of the Newman Sharp Racing team. You got Bob, you got Paul out front by a fairly good margin right now. Are you concerned about tire wear?
Well, sure we are. We got about a little over 10 seconds, but Pruitt came through the pack very quickly. Raced a little over halfway old, so a lot more to go. So far, we're very pleased.
Has Paul been able to back off a little bit? Halsmer's fallen back somewhat. Is it giving him a little bit of a cushion?
Yeah, I think he has. He's slowed down a couple seconds a lap. I'm sure he's concerned about preserving the tires, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, wish you luck.
Thank you.
So 50 miles are down and 50 more to go on a very hot afternoon in Riverside, California. Paul Newman, the leader. In fact, right now, Newman is coming up on the bumper of his own teammate, number 38, Jim Fitzgerald. So Fitzgerald running down a few laps. Paul Newman is the leader.
All right, as we watch Larry Park, who's moved up into the 5th spot in his older Corvette from up in Fremont, California, the Bay Area, came down to Riverside and has moved through the field, thanks in part to the attrition of the leaders, but also to a good driving job on the part of this man. So we've got Newman leading it. Halsmer back there in 2nd place. Can't seem to do anything about that. Scott Pruitt now slowly moving in on Halsmer. And Les Lindsley and Larry Park and a couple of Chevrolet products rounding out the top 5.
And the best race out on the track right now, Brock, has got to be a pair of teammates going after each other. Pete Halsmer and the beautiful brand new Mercury McClure turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. But here comes Scott Pruitt in the normally aspirated Ford-powered Mercury Capri. That is a carbureted engine. The SCCA has a very complicated formula as to weight versus cubic centimeters versus turbocharging. I won't even get into all of that. But right now, Jack Roush has got to be hoping that the two of these don't get too aggressive and take each other out.
Well, Halsmer known to be a very aggressive young driver, and Pruitt doesn't back down for anybody either. So this could get interesting as Pruitt moves in right on Halsmer's bumper, tries a little bit of an outside move up to turn 6. He knows he can't make it stick in there, though. But look at Pruitt. Now, here you see the turbo car, the Mercure, in the lead there of the two, pulling out a little bit as they head down into turn number 7. It may be that that boost to that little 4-cylinder works a little bit better coming off the slower corners. I was surprised, though, weren't you, that maybe Pruitt couldn't put it on him down that short chute?
I was indeed, and that speaks very highly of the power they're able to make. And also, let's remember, the Mercure is a good deal lighter automobile, so that kind of equalizes the whole thing. But remember, both these drivers get their paycheck from the same man, so I think they got the 16-ounce gloves on right now.
All right, Scott Pruitt right back there in that number 0 Capri, moving in on the Mercure, the number 3 car of Pete Halsmer, through that big sweeper they call turn 9 here at Riverside. It looks as if Halsmer has responded a little bit and is trying to hold off. This is going to get interesting into turn 1. A very narrow corner as Halsmer barely holds off Pruitt. Pruitt got off turn 9 a whole lot better, and now right in behind Halsmer. Boy, is this an interesting show right now. You will see whether or not Pruitt can get by him down through the S's.
Well, if Pruitt indeed does have the faster car, Halsmer really should let him by, because he would have the better chance of running down Newman.
Well, I know Pete Halsmer, and he's a good sport, but I don't think he's that good a sport. If Scott Pruitt gets by him for second spot, you can be sure it's going to be after maybe some fun.
Car number 38, Jim Fitzgerald, in the pits for the second time, and now he is officially out of the race. So Fitzgerald has big problems with the 38 car, but his teammate in number 33, Paul Newman, is out in front. The turbo Nissan running flawlessly to this point. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and here is the battle the fans are watching. This is for the second position between Pete Halsmer and the Mercury Mercure, Scott Pruitt in the Mercury Capri. Newman out in front, Les Lindley in a Camaro in 4th, and Chris Neifel has battled back into the 5th spot after his get-together with Jim Miller.
So Jack Roush suddenly back into it. He's got 3 cars in the top 5. These two going at it for the second spot. Very encouraging day so far for the Roush team out of Detroit. And what's the boss doing? On the pit wall, cheering him on.
By now, you know who this man is, Jack Roush. And he is trying to signal to Scott Pruitt that it's okay to pass teammate Pete Halsmer. Now, Halsmer is in their prime effort for the season, the Mercure. But Jack says, what the heck? If the kid's got the talent and the power, let last year's car win. I don't care. Put a Capri in the winner's circle. In case Pruitt is all hesitant, Jack is telling him, go for it, young man. Go for it.
Well, he sure is. He's right on Halsmer's bumper as they head up into turn number 6. He's been trying Halsmer all the way around the racetrack for about 3 laps now, but Pete has not been obliging enough to let him by. So Scott Pruitt sits back there. Here they come down into turn number 7 one more time. Pruitt made, remember, that's the move that Neifel put on Miller and put them both back. So Pruitt a little more prudent, as it were, as they head through this twisty little S's coming onto the back straightaway.
Well, Pruitt would like to pick up a little bit of a draft if he can, headed down that. The Nissan is slowing, Brock, on the inside of the back straight. Paul Newman is having problems, and this is now the race for the lead. Boy, the complexion changes so dramatically here today.
Suddenly, Pete Halsmer leads it here at Riverside and being challenged now by Scott Pruitt on the outside of turn number 9. What a move, nose to nose through that big sweeper. Can he make it work? No. Pruitt falls back a little bit as we watch Newman rushing toward the pits. Yes, the number 33 car struggling through turn number 9. He'll go into the pits for sure as we watch Pruitt challenge again for the lead.
Well, a lap car there, Brock, suddenly became an important player here. There was no way for Pruitt to make that pass. Now he's going to try him on the inside. Yes. What a super pass by Scott Pruitt to take the lead from the 31st starting position. Jack Roush and crew just loving it, and there's a yellow flag up. You can see behind this group. So that is going to slow everybody down, but Paul Newman, he didn't need a yellow flag to slow him down. He's got some problems limping into the pits. It could be that both of the turbo Nissans are out of this race.
What a shame. Paul Newman, who had a strong, stout, solid lead here, he was moving away from Pete Halsmer, and then suddenly it all quit on him. Even if they get it back into the race, his chances for victory absolutely eliminated. Even a tougher break, they've got a caution out here, so it gives the leaders, now Scott Pruitt, of course, and Pete Halsmer, a little chance to just back it up and save their tires. And this pair, the Roush team, taking command of this race.
Well, Jack, with Paul Newman out, your cars are running 1-2. Your concern now is they don't let them take each other out.
I just see a full course yellow right now, and I'm real anxious to see my cars. I was encouraging Scott to go on a pass Pete if he could, so he could run at Newman. But now we have to slow him down if we can keep him, try to keep them off one another.
Little inter-team competition.
Yeah. No, thank you. Here they come. Looks like Scott's in one.
One of the most involved of all the car owners in motorsports. Jack Roush has a major engineering development firm in Detroit. Racing is only part of his vast operation. But right now, his cars lead it 1-2. And Chris Neifel back and forth, challenging Les Lindsay for third. It could be a 1-2-3 finish for Roush here at Riverside.
Well, that's what they're hoping for down here in the Jack Roush pits, Brock. And don't you know that Roush is darn glad he flew in Scott Pruitt. The reason for the full course yellow at Riverside Raceway, car number 67, Frank Poole, is down at the entrance to turn number 8. He is a hazard, certainly. That's one of the toughest parts of this racetrack. So the pace car is out there in front of the leader, Scott Pruitt, who has just done a masterful job today, coming from the 31st position on the grid to lead it. Impossible to say whether Pruitt could have run down this man, Paul Newman. He was running strongly in the lead. Obviously, some kind of a problem with his Nissan automobile. Both the Nissan cars are 8. Paul is trying to muster a grid if he can for Brock.
Oh, we're really sorry. A fantastic day. It looked really good, and then was it cooling, and Fitzy came in, and then all of a sudden you appeared.
Well, the oil was running around 250, but that shouldn't have killed us. I don't know, something like going in the end.
Just braked instantly. The car was running beautifully. Were you concerned about the tires at all? I talked to Bob a little bit ago, and he said that you were just had a little cushion.
I could have held Pruitt off, I think, and that's all I would have had to do. The tough part is I ain't getting any younger. I haven't got that many left in me, you know?
Well, it was a beautiful. We're sorry you're out.
Well, what a show he put on. I don't know how much longer Paul will drive, only he knows that. But he will be involved in racing. He's part owner of the team. And what is this? Our onboard camera. That could only mean Wally Dallenbach Jr. has gotten back into the race. Waving around. We're still under the yellow flag, remember? So Dallenbach, I saw him get on his bicycle. He rode back to the garage. He got some parts. He got the crew together. And they headed out onto the back straight and obviously made the necessary repairs to get the car back in the race. And I don't think Dallenbach's concern here is points or prize money. He wants to get as much time on the car as he can for the next race on the schedule. And the only way he's going to do that is to get out here at Riverside and thrash and bash with the rest of the guys as many laps as he possibly can. But I wonder how long the SCCA is going to let Wally stay out there. I have a feeling he may have broken the rules working on that car out on the track like that along with his crew. Well, it's been a tough day for all of the two-car teams. Both Buicks are out. Both Camaros are literally out of it. And also both Nissans, Brock.
I'm with Chip Fitzgerald, the other half of the Paul Newman, Sharp Newman team, and all of a sudden it was over. Fitz, it was going real good for Paul, and you were hanging in there pretty well, but you had some heating problems early in the going.
Well, I had foot heating problems. We had lowered the gas pedal to keep it away from the brake, and down there near the engine firewall, the heat was so intense you couldn't hardly keep your foot on the gas. And then I wore a different glove and my hand was on. Oh, it was just I was doing all right up till then. The car was running fine. But the water hose broke. Lost it almost in my own water. And I said, flat tire. Not too bright. Water.
Tough way to end it. The team was up, really looking good here for a while, and then all of a sudden it was over. What does it do to everybody? It just kind of takes the wind out of the team for a while, then I know you'll come back.
Well, at least you show a little promise. We're top 5. a hose clamp problem. I don't know whether it was something else in the engine. Paul knows that he can now compete, you know, so it's at least enough for the driver's capability. And I think it's just a minor thing on the engine. We'll get that solved. And
First race of the season.
First race. Thanks, Brock.
Okay, all right, Fitz.
So Jim Fitzgerald was literally hot-footing it around Riverside International Raceway. Ouch. Paging Dr. Scholl to the Nissan pits.
Okay, well, the field still proceeds under caution, but you see that black flag and that number 4, that says, you're right, Steve, Wally Dallenbach Jr., no way. You can't work on your car out there like he did and continue to race. So they're going to bring him into the pits and park him for the day. Just a bad afternoon for Wally Dallenbach Jr. A tough day, out on the first lap and now out again. Steve?
All right, an SCCA official coming into the Wally Dallenbach Jr. pits to apparently explain to them why they were black flagged. And I believe it was because they were working on the car out there on the racetrack on the backstretch. That's the closest guess that I have. Guys, do we know why they black flagged him?
Their crew can't work on the car on the track.
That's kind of what we thought. But I tell you, nobody was going to stop Wally Dallenbach Jr. from getting back in this race if he could possibly do it. So it looks like Wally, who sat on the pole and led very, very briefly in this race, is finally done for the day. But what a scrappy kid he is.
Well, you got to be sure that Wally Dallenbach Jr. is just aching to get back out there and at least show Scott Pruitt, another one of the young Lions, how hard he can drive as well. But right now, still under caution, Pruitt, Halsmer hold down the 1-2 spots in the Roush team. Les Lindley hangs on with his Camaro in the 3rd spot, but you can be sure he's going to be challenged by Chris Neifel when the green flag falls. Larry Park in 5th in his Corvette. Steve?
Wally, I know how full of confidence you were when we talked on the grid and not even one full lap.
Well, it just wasn't meant to be today. I guess we had some problems, and the guys worked on it. And the SCCA said that you can't work on the car and go back on the track. So
I saw you come back to the pits and grab your bicycle and take off.
Yeah. Well, we got the whole rest of the year to get them. Just one of those deals.
What did cause the problem, do you know?
I think it was distributor problems, but outside of that, you know, when they worked on it and they changed the distributor and fired right up and ran, so, you know, I don't know what the problem was, but that'll make sense.
And thank you as well for trying to carry the onboard camera for us. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
In general, not a very good start for Wally Dallenbach Jr. in the first race of the season in the Trans Am Series. Half a lap and then a restart and a black flag, but you can count on it. He will return. He's going to be a factor once again, as this season is very, very young. We are about ready to get a restart. The pace car is down pit road, Steve Evans, and the green flag is going to come out in a moment with Scott Pruitt on the point.
And just behind him in the 2nd position, the 4-cylinder turbocharged Mercury McCour, Pete Halsmer, so impressive in its debut appearance here at Riverside. And the best hope Halsmer has got, Brock, is to try to just keep dogging Pruitt. Maybe it'll push that V8 car too hard. And there's the 3rd place runner, the yellow car number 80. That is Les Lindley. Robert Kahn in the 9 car is a lap car. He's down in the 10th position.
Well, Les Lindley is a solid performer in the SCCA Trans Am Series. Finished 10th overall in points last year. Had himself a couple of 5th place finishes. So right now, his 3rd place could be very, very good for him. But look at this. He's about to lose it. There goes Chris Neifel, charging past Lindley and pushing him back into the 4th spot. So now, Steve Evans, Jack Roush has the top 3 spots for his cars.
The only thing that could be any better for he or the Lincoln Mercury division of the Ford Motor Company is if the McCour was in front instead of Scott Pruitt, because that's the car they really want to sell through this kind of racing.
Well, I think we ought to have a word, though, about the number 80 Camaro, Les Lindley. While we have the full factory-supported might of the Jack Roush team, Les is one of the independents that really supports this kind of competition. He doesn't have a whole lot of help, but he's doing a fine job out there with an independently financed Camaro built up in Anaheim, California, his hometown. And you can be sure that a 5th place finish, or a 4th place, I should say, in this kind of competition is plenty to be proud of on a low-budget operation.
Well, friends and family of Scott Pruitt are going to be mighty proud of that young man from 31st to 1st, but it's not over yet.
The SCCA Bendix Trans Am as the young man from up the road in Roseville, California, Scott Pruitt, comes from the back to the front to lead it here. I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans as we watch the the #2 Capri of Chris Neifel come down toward turn #7, the fateful corner that took both he and Jim Miller out of competition, or at least out of contention for the win.
Well, whatever the reasons, Jim Miller is now on the sidelines. If you joined us late, let's take another look at this incident. There's the leader, number 28 on the left side of your screen, on the outside of turn #7. Coming down on the inside, that is Chris Neifel, and kaboom! You be the judge. Did Neifel come in a little too hot, or did Miller cut him off?
Well, you could see that Neifel was hard on the brakes before he hit Miller. A lot of smoke, and there goes Miller, and here comes Pete Halsmer in the Mercure in the #3 car, and there's Paul Newman in the 33 weaving their way through. And of course, not a lap was completed before Newman passed Halsmer to take over the lead. But that's all history now, as here is your current leader, Scott Pruitt, who, remember, came from the back of the pack and took over the lead when Paul Newman retired. So I'll tell you what, Steve, being out front here at Riverside is kind of the kiss of death up to now. Nobody's been able to hold on to it without having some problems.
Well, Pete Halsmer had the lead for a while. His problem was that Scott Pruitt just flat drove around him. And that is the race for the second position. There's the third place car. There's second, #3, and there's third just behind him a few car lengths.
And hanging on in fourth place is the #80 yellow Camaro of Les Lindley. Remember, he gave up third spot to a Neifel a few laps ago, but continues to hang on. Doing a good job in an independently supported car, and the only Chevrolet product in the top 4 at the present time.
Well, Brock, I think we're seeing today the makings of a tremendous year for the Trans Am Series. The Camaro's minor problems put them out on the ignition problem with Dallenbach, and a shut, of course, for Miller. The Nissans ran very strongly. The debut of the Mercure is nothing short of spectacular. We could have a 4-way factory battle before this year is out.
Well, don't forget the Buicks, which have been listed as favorites going into this season because of their bigger, naturally aspirated, fuel-injected V6 Buick engines. So it's going to be a wild dice all the way. This is the first race of the season, and a lot of shakeouts are occurring, and a lot of development lies ahead. Les Lindley, though, he's just going on, doing a fine job here, hanging with the leaders, hasn't given up an inch. It will be interesting to see how the Camaros fare after being soundly beaten last year by Roush's Ford team. But the Camaro, as you know, is a classic race car. They're used everywhere. Short tracks, big tracks, road courses, drag races, whatever. The classic aerodynamic shape of what they call the F-body GM car, the Trans Am and the Camaro, work almost anywhere you want to race them.
You know, we refer to these as stock cars, and I guess technically this is a stock car base series. But the only thing stock on these machines is the steel roof and the windshield. Other than that, they are ground-up built race cars. The series offers a tremendous opportunity to both factory and outside engineers, Brock, to really express themselves.
Well, it is, Steve. It's basically what we call a silhouette formula. That is, the cars must conform to a stock silhouette in terms of their body profiles. But underneath, well, almost anything goes. Excepting, of course, the use of the engines. They have to be production-based, and the engine position, etc., has certain rules. So that car that you see right there, the #2 automobile of Chris Neifel, is a perfect example of the kind of technology this racing series has. There's another high-tech automobile. Unfortunately, it's out, but Steve's there to look at it.
You'll only find these door jam air ducts on 2 cars here at Riverside. The pole-sitting Camaro of Wally Dallenbach Jr. and his teammate Jim Miller, the 24 car. Now, noted race car designer Bob Riley created these machines. They were built by Protofab in Detroit just about a week ago. Now, the reason for those door jam air ducts is this. Riley has taken the engine oil cooler from inside the car in the passenger compartment and moved it as far back as possible for traction. Now, the air comes from those ducts through these huge tubes into this fiberglass housing. Now, what you can't see, there are 2 electrical fans here and here and a radiator. Now, the oil comes from the engine through the cooler, back up through this filter into the oil tank, and then again is pumped to the engine where the whole cycle starts all over again. Now, another reason for doing this, by having the ducts in the door jam, he can reduce the frontal opening. All he has to worry about there is the water radiator, and that means he's got a more aerodynamic car and also one that doesn't tend to lift. So chalk up another grand development for Bob Riley.
All right. Good job, Steve. You got all that technical stuff right, but one thing, I think Jim Miller's car is number 28, not 24.
I knew you'd catch me, Yates. It's so hot out here, my brain is fading on me. But not so the battle for the third spot. Look at this. Here is Neifel, a lap car waving him by, and behind him is that independent Chevrolet from Anaheim, California, Les Lindley.
Boy, he just hangs on all the while. He got passed pretty easily, it seemed as though, by Neifel, and moved right up on him, but it sort of woke Les up, apparently, and he is just hanging right on. There's your leader, the Zero Capri of Scott Pruitt, who just blows by everybody right now. He's set a pace that nobody seems to be able to keep up with. You'll notice that Halsmer has fallen back substantially with a Mercure. He may very well be just have given up, as it were, and not try to pass him, because Pruitt is just showing so much horsepower and so much poise here that Pete says, hey, this is a new car, this Mercure. I developed it as he did, and I'm not going to try to challenge Scott Pruitt right now. Pruitt's in a proven car. He's obviously hooked up and running hard, so I'll just sit back here and take second.
And you know, Brock, I've noticed on the 80 car Lindley and also on Scott Pruitt, they're getting a lot looser now, coming out of turn 9. In fact, in all of the turns, the cars are sliding more. That means only one thing. The fuel load's getting lighter, and the tires are going away. So if I was Pete Halsmer in that lighter car, I wouldn't be giving up yet. His tires may be in better shape.
Well, it's entirely possible as we watch Neifel and Les Lindley continue to go at it for that 3rd and 4th spot. Lindley right there. And if Chris bobbles, you can be sure that Lindley will pounce on him like a hungry cat. As he moves in through the S's, Lindley really is handling well through the S's as they come up into turn number 6.
And don't you know, if Les Lindley could break up that all-Ford domination in the top 3, he might get a little call from Warren, Michigan and Chevrolet.
The biggest possible payday of all.
You got to be pulling for that bright yellow Camaro, number 80 of Les Lindley, as he is trying to take 3rd place away from Chris Neifel in the factory-backed Mercury Capri, a machine identical to the one that won the series last year at the hands of Wally Dallenbach Jr., and he's closing in on him, Brock Yates.
Well, I wonder whether Chris's tires are starting to go away from him. Remember, he took a big spin when he tried to challenge for the lead and put he and both Jim Miller off the racetrack. It may be they didn't change tires. It may be that the old traction is going away a little bit on that Capri as Les Lindley continues to nibble at that 3rd place spot occupied by Neifel right now.
Well, I think everybody's tires are going away just a bit. Everybody just a little looser than they were before. And I showed you the trick little adjustable sway bar on some of these cars. I have a feeling the drivers that do have that feature on board are starting to use it right now, trying to keep those cars as properly balanced as they possibly can. You know, Chris Neifel is an interesting young guy. He's a tall guy. Looks more like a basketball star than a race car driver. He's participated in Indianapolis, came back from a bad crash. He's now devoting most of his time to the Trans Am Series. Earlier, Brock talked to him.
You could certainly say Chris Neifel is as hardcore professional as any of the drivers here at Riverside, but I think his motivations may be a little bit different. Chris, we understand that there is a charity aspect to your running right here and also throughout the Trans Am season.
Yeah, this is kind of an idea I had over the winter. Basically what I'm trying to do is every race we go to, myself as a competitor or all of us as a team, you know, we rely so much on the community supporting us, you know, coming out and paying for tickets and, you know, welcoming us into town. It would be nice to do something to give something back. So what I've done is put together a program where I'm donating my percentage of winnings, which is 35% of my overall prize money, to a local charity in each community. And we're not trying to go for the big name ones. We just want some local ones that maybe this could help them, you know, make progress in their own efforts. And out here in Riverside, we're working with the local hospital in Los Angeles, and we've run with the Boys Club up in San Francisco, and then a museum in Oregon are the first 3 that we've picked. So we feel like we're trying to get into the grassroots kind of the charity organizations, and you know, whether it's $50 or $5,000 or however much money we're able to give them, hopefully, you know, it'll help them, you know, get more money and exposure to their own cause.
That's terrific, Chris. What prompted you to do this? I don't think anybody in racing drivers are not necessarily ungenerous guys, but it's a hard row, and they tend to keep pretty close to themselves, at least their winnings are concerned. Was there any particular thing in your life that prompted you to do this?
Well, basically, my upbringing, my family have all been very pro charities. My mother started a foundation for prevention of child abuse. My grandfather had his own foundation, which has given substantial amounts of money over the years to many causes. My dad is now becoming more active in doing stuff like that. So it's kind of been brought up in it. But, you know, there's a need to support this stuff. And also, I feel there's a need for racing to help the image of racing, because, you know, we're not the grease monkeys or whatever that the stereotype lends us to be. And I think this could just help myself as a driver, the sponsors, and everybody just kind of bolster our image in the community, because it's as we get closer to town, we need more community support. You know, because like this racetrack here, Riverside's going away for that probably same reason. So I think it's important for everyone to think as highly of us as possible.
Well, we congratulate you. Super idea, and I hope it catches on with other drivers. Congratulations.
Thanks, Brock.
Well, if Chris continues to run as hard for the final few miles as he is right now, a Riverside area charity will be the recipient of a handsome amount of money. Third place pays pretty well in the Trans Am, and that's where Kneifel is right now. Third place, but still getting some pressure from Les Lindley. But Les right now, Brock, doesn't appear to be quite as quick as he was.
Well, Steve, he's fallen back a couple of car lengths, but he's still right there as far as Chris is concerned. His rear view mirror is still full of yellow race car. But Les has only got maybe about 2.6 miles left if he wants to get that third spot, because there is your leader. He is crossing the start-finish line to take what is going to be his final lap here at Riverside. And that, of course, means that Halsmer and Kneifel and Lindley and all the rest of them only have about another lap if they're going to change any positions as well.
And Brock, to comment on something Chris Kneifel told you earlier about Riverside going away. Well, that's still kind of up in the air. I mean, ultimately, it'll be developed into homes. You can see there's homes all the way around it right now. But the people that own this racetrack are not giving up on keeping it alive as long as possible and finding a new site. So they have not written the final chapter yet on this racetrack. And here's the guy currently in the second spot, just kind of cruising along. He knows he doesn't have enough time to catch Scott Pruitt. Pruitt right now, you know, looking at all his instruments saying, come on, baby, just hold on another mile or so.
Well, he has just put on a show here that is going to be one of the highlights of the Trans Am season. Coming from the back to the front, racing way on the other side of the United States in Charlotte, North Carolina the day before on an airplane, red-eyeing it to the West Coast, jumping in the car with no practice laps whatsoever, hoping that the chassis setup was roughly correct. And here he comes on his way, the final corner, turn 9 at Riverside, and young Scott Pruitt sails around it for the last lap on his way to what will be his first victory ever in the Trans Am Series.
But what a year the young man has had in IMSA competition. A great showing at Daytona, won his class. At Sebring, would have won at Miami had he not been butted off the course. Here's the race for third. Is it going to be? Yes, Chris Kneifel takes third, but a tip of the hat to that independent Camaro finishing fourth, Les Lindley.
And there's your winner, Scott Pruitt, on his cool-off lap. We'll talk to him after this.
You could ask for happened in a brief 100 miles. At the Bendix Trans Am, Scott Pruitt won it from way in the back of the pack. Pete Halsmer and Chris Kneifel make it a Ford 1-2-3 finish. Brock is with the winner.
So here he comes. Absolutely superb piece of driving by Scott Pruitt. Scott, congratulations. What a drive.
Thanks.
A little jet lag along with a little tiredness too, huh?
Yeah, you know, the Roush guys did a super job putting this whole thing together, and I gotta say thanks to all the Mac Tool people and Mercury and everybody who put this all together for me, because it was kind of a last-minute deal, and I can't say enough for them. They really did a super job.
You ran real hard yesterday, ran third at Charlotte, came across the country, got in here. Somebody picked you up at the airport this morning, as I understand, about 8:30, and then out here. How many laps did you have at practice?
We had about 3 laps, I think, 3 or 4 laps, but we just spent, you know, we had that IMSA race out here not too long ago, and you know, I saw all the crew just rooting me on, telling me, go ahead, go ahead, so.
The chassis was obviously pretty right, huh?
Yeah, things were working real well. The engine ran super. Jack did a super job getting the engine together, and the crew guys, they did a great job getting the car all finished. We had a few little problems this morning, but we got them all taken care of.
Got to feel good.
I felt great.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. And now let's go to Steve with the second place finisher.
Good race, Peter. Hey, great.
Well, for Pete Halsmer, an auspicious debut for the Mercury Turbo.
Well, I guess I didn't quite hear all that because I have my earplugs in.
Auspicious debut for the Mercury Turbo. A lot of people felt it'd take longer for the Roush and company to figure out turbocharging. It certainly didn't.
Well, I think that's true, and you know, those guys
have proven what they can do in other series, in this series, in the past, and in the GTO class, and I think they've shown again what they can do, and you know, I can't say enough about them. My job is just to drive the thing. If they don't give me the kind of car that'll finish and run up front, then I'm not going to be able to do it. And I can't say enough about those guys. They worked their tail off all weekend long, and it's tough trying to take a new car and do what they did, and I'm really proud of them.
When Paul Newman fell out, I thought maybe Jack Roush would slow Scott Pruitt down. After all, the McClure is the real thrust for the Trans Am Series this year. And then I thought, Jack is not going to take the spirit out of his drivers. He's not that kind of a manager.
No, Jack's a racer, and that's what we're all here for, you know, and I enjoy getting a chance to run with these guys. I'm glad that Ford and Lincoln Mercury gave me an opportunity to do this, and Scott's a really talented guy, and I'm going to enjoy getting a chance to race with him this year some.
Amen to that. Again, congratulations to fine second-place driver.
Chris really did a heck of a job, too. I mean, he really kept the team going when we were struggling with the Mercure, and he had it right up front with the Capri, so I'm really proud of what he did, too.
Thank you, Pete. And listening to these drivers, Brock, you sense there's a real team spirit there. On the victory rostrum, there is Scott Pruitt receiving his medal from Mike Monty, president of Allied Aftermarket Division. Of course, Bendix, the sponsor of the Trans Am Series. Brock?
Well, we're with Chris, who did a fantastic piece of work. Started second. Chris, tell me exactly what happened in those opening laps. That got a little wild up there.
Oh, yeah, right away on the start. We had a first gear start. When I shifted to second, Wally and Jim both had lower second gears. They pulled away from me. That's how I ended up third. And, of course, Wally dropped out right off the bat. And Jim had the legs of me a little bit down the straight. And I just felt like he was holding me up in the corner. So I basically just tried to catch him sleeping, and we came together. And it's too bad didn't mean to do that, and it kind of screwed me up too, but
you got way off. You got off in the dirt, and then you just went way to the back. Is that what happened?
Yeah, basically I did a little spin off into the dirt. I had to pit, make sure the car was okay, and it was just a matter of getting back out there and running a steady race back up. And Jack Roush has worked so hard that it's 1, 2, 3 for him. I know we never gave it to him last year, and I know this is probably one of his happiest moments, especially with the XR4 Ti being second. It was super.
Well, good job. Got to be a great way to start the season.
Yeah, I'm real happy. Get some points.
Good deal. Congratulations.
Well, if the opening race has this much excitement, you can imagine what the rest of the Bendix Trans Am Series is going to be like. The margin of victory for Scott Pruitt, 3.22 seconds. Average speed, just under 100 miles an hour. For Brock Yates, I'm Steve Evans. So long from Riverside International Raceway.